The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi everyone, thanks for joining us for this week's VIX Service Live video, and thank you everybody who's joining us as a guest for the VIX Service Live video, which is normally reserved for the VIX Service members. Okay, so I wanted to open this video up to the members at large, given that we are in a pretty interesting spot in both the equity markets as well as the volatility markets. We saw a very sharp spike up last week in the VXX, and we saw a fairly sharp move down last week in the equity markets after a very extended move higher. So I thought it was an appropriate time to kind of discuss where we're at, where I think we're at in the volatility markets, including the VXX. Kind of give you a review of where we were at last week and some of the action that occurred last week, how we traded that, and then discuss where I think we're going moving forward. I'll also take a quick look at the equity markets, which we reviewed quite a bit in the room, but I'll just take a quick look at those as well and see how those might align and fit with what I'm seeing on the volatility markets. All right. So let's start with the longer term picture on the VXX that kind of gives us an idea of where we've been off of the March highs on the VXX and how that should affect things moving forward here as we move into the fall here of 2020. All right, so from the March high, I'm counting this entire move as a large ABC down off of that March high. So I've got an A wave down into the March, off the March highs into the late March lows. Got a fairly shallow B wave retrace. And then I've got a really long, what I'm counting is a really large and long ending diagonal. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 for this diagonal. And what that should result in is in a retracement back up towards the origination point of that diagonal. That's typically what occurs when we're dealing with a diagonal. Now, because the VXX does have some contango and some decay built into it, I'm not expecting a full move back up all the way to this 55-ish area necessarily, but I am looking for a fairly sharp move back higher, assuming that we have completed this pattern, potentially into the 40 region, potentially could get up to the 50 zone, and I'll lay out those fibs here momentarily. But I am expecting a fairly sharp move back higher, given that we've potentially completed a large ending diagonal off of those April highs on the VXX. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we look at our fourth wave here. We have an ABC down as our fifth wave of our diagonal. And it hit this target zone of 25.45 right into the 22.18 zone. So this was a target zone that I'd laid out, had it laid out for quite some time. We bounced around in that target zone for a few weeks, and then we started to see a pretty sharp acceleration higher off of that target zone. And then we saw it top out last week for what I'm counting ideally as an A wave top, and then looking for a B wave retrace, which should then be followed by a C wave up. Now, on this ABC up off the lows, I am counting this move up so far as 3 waves, which is okay. It's not ideal. I would have preferred this move to be 5 waves. It would have given us a little bit more confidence that we are indeed going to see another higher high. But 3 waves is not it's not out of the ordinary, and it certainly is acceptable for what we're looking for in a C wave up. So we certainly can have a 3-wave move for an A wave to start. So from here, what I'm looking for is a retracement for a B wave. And although on Friday we did hit the minimum retrace level here at the 50% retrace, our B wave retrace zone is here from 50% all the way down to 88.6. And although we hit that on Friday, what I noted in the room, in the VIX room on Friday, was that I don't think this is enough for all of wave B. I do think that we should see a deeper wave B and a longer wave B, just given this A wave took several days. It took from August 27th all the way up to September 4th. September 4th. I think that this B wave down should take more time. So although from a fib perspective, we did hit the minimum retrace, I noted that I think it's going to take a bit longer and deeper for this B wave to complete. And that's what we saw today. We saw that B wave hit an A, B, and then C. So the B wave top today. And then a nice wave C of beat down. So from here, I'm looking for support in the 2877, which we've already hit, down to the 2596 zone. That's the ideal support zone. Sorry, 2466 zone, which is the 88.6 retrace. So that's the ideal support zone for this larger wave B here. And then from there, I'd be looking for a C wave to the upside. So if we lay out our fibs here, starting from the bottom that we saw back in August, and then let's just use a 76.4 retracement for the time being. Again, we don't have confirmation of a bottom just yet, but we'll use the 76.4 as a nice middle ground between the 61.8 and the 88.6. So that would project up, our standard projections for our C wave would be at the 3660 level, and that's the 100 extension. So that would be the minimum target that I'd be looking for the C wave up. And then it's very common for the VXX to see extended C waves when we start getting sharp moves down in the equity markets. And we saw that, we can see that even back here in June, we saw a very extended C wave. This was an A, B, and C, and this C wave extended up. We can see it extended up well past the 100 extension and moved even beyond the 300 extension and moved all the way up to, it was about the 400 extension here. Before topping out. So it's not uncommon for the VXX to see extended C waves. Or again, when we're seeing sharp moves down in the equity markets. So it wouldn't be out of the question for this to extend up to the 161.8 extension at 43.18, potentially as high as a 200 extension at 47.25. And if we get really extended, we could get again back up to that 55 area, which again, that would be the ending diagonal origination point all the way back in March. Again, because there is decay built into this move down, I'm not fully expecting move all the way up to 55 just yet. But with the height of this move up off of the lows, it's not out of the question to see a move back up to 55. But again, I'll start with using the standard targets of 3660, which is the 100 extension. If we do indeed break higher, if we were able to get through that level, the 100 extension, wherever that may land. Of course, we don't have a signal at the bottom just yet, but assuming that we do bottom at the 76.4 retrace, wherever that 100 extension falls in this particular case, it would be at 3660. So I'd be looking for a move through the 100 extension. If we get through the 100 extension, that would open a door to seeing a move up to the 161.8 to 200 extension. And again, that would be at 43.18 to 47.25. So with the strength of this move up off the lows, we certainly have the projections to make it up to those levels, assuming that we can hold this support zone here on this B wave. So again, A, B, looking for a strong C wave up. Again, initial targets would be in the low to mid 30s, 3660 again if we bottom here at 76.4. If that level breaks, that would then open the door to seeing a stronger move up into the low to even high 40s, the 161.8 to 200 extension for this large wave C to the upside. So that would be what I'm looking for on the VXX bigger picture, okay? So drilling down a bit on the VXX, this is a bit messy. We have a lot of fibs here. Let me try to clean this up just a bit so we're not getting overwhelmed. Okay, so today we opened up, higher today. We had an overnight kind of a gap up. We opened up about 8% today. And what I noted in the room this morning was that ideally this is a B wave top, looking for a C wave down, and that fit with my expectations from last week. So I was looking for an A down and then B up for a move deeper into this retracement zone for the B wave. At the time, this morning, I did have an alternate on the board where I had alternate olive wave B here for an alternate count, because again, we did hit that 50% retrace, was an alternate. And again, I did note that ideally this would be a B wave top. If we were able to move through 33.43, that would be an initial signal that we may be breaking out higher already in olive wave B. That didn't occur. We topped almost right at the open and we moved sharply lower, giving us confirmation that we were in the C wave down. As of right now, the action down off of the B wave high from this morning is not terribly clear, and it's fairly overlapping here. So if this is potentially an ending diagonal for a C wave, so potentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we can hold the 61.8 which comes in at this level here, which at 27.59. If we can hold that level or even down to the 26.06 level, we potentially could see a fairly sharp reversal back off of this low, at least up towards 31.64 again if we're in a diagonal. We do have the 100 extension falling in right near the 76.4 retrace at 26.09. So I do like that level as far as fib confluence between our A wave down and our C wave down. It would make this diagonal a bit, this fifth wave of the diagonal, a bit stretched out. So we may need to get a few more squiggles in here to fill out this diagonal. This may just be a bottom of 3 and then a 4 and a 5. Again, this action is pretty sloppy right now. I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work out just yet. But again, I do like the fact that we have a nice confluence down here at the 76.4 to the 100 extension down at 26.09. But I'm watching the 61.8 level fairly closely here at 27.60. If we can hold that and get a 5-wave move up off this 61.8 level, I'll certainly be looking to get long from there. Otherwise, I'd be looking for a move down to 26.09, looking for a long setup down around this region. At again the 100 extension to the 76.4 retrace. So again, fairly clean so far, fairly moving through the pattern fairly cleanly, and again pretty much what we've expected. So like I said, the VXX pattern is fairly clean at the moment, and we certainly have a setup as long as we can keep into this support zone to move higher over the next few weeks and even into the next month or so into the fall. So that's basically what I'm watching on the VXX. Again, it's been following a fairly clean pattern here up off the lows, and into this low level here. The issue that I do have with the VXX at the moment, I'm getting notes some people are having issues hearing. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay, yeah, it looks like everybody can hear me. Okay. So one of the issues I'm having with the VXX as far as this B wave retrace is what we're seeing on the equity markets. And I noted this in the VIX room today. Ideally, I would have liked to have seen the SPX and the ES and the NASDAQ all get a nice B wave retracement as well up towards 3,500 on the ES. And near the open, we had that potential. We had the ES trading right near the lows, and I would have liked to have seen a sharp move higher for the B wave, which would have matched with the B wave and the VXX. We didn't get that. And the ES and the NASDAQ all continued to break lower and trade near the lows most of the day. So, ideally, I'd still like to see a retrace a little bit higher for a wave 2, wave A, B, and then 1, 2 on the ES and the NASDAQ. And that potentially could still get the VXX to move a little bit lower into this retracement zone for the B wave. Again, ideally down towards that 76.4 retracement, while the SPX moves a little bit higher for this wave 2. That's ideally what I'm looking for. And then as the ES finds resistance here at its wave 2, pushes lower again, that could potentially open the door for the VXX to bottom in its B wave and push higher. So we don't exactly have a clean count right now between the VXX and the ES, but I'm not terribly surprised at that because the VXX was running ahead of the ES last week. And I'll show that here. I did get a question in the room. I wanted some folks were asking me how I identified this breakout move higher. So I'll address that a little bit. We put on several trades last week in the VIX room. I think we had 4 or 5 trades that we put on, and it was really kind of as the VXX was grinding up here into this top of what I counted as a wave 1 of C here. We saw the VXX grinding higher as the equity markets were grinding higher as well. So the equity markets were all grinding way higher, and the VXX was grinding way higher as well. This is not untypical. It's fairly common when we see a major top in the equity markets for volatility to bottom first. That's pretty much what we saw here. So if I was looking at just this chart on its own, it would have been a really tough call to say, okay, the VXX is getting ready to break out. This pattern is not terribly clear, and it's not the cleanest of patterns as far as looking for a breakout here. But the key evidence that I saw last week was when I saw the SPX continuing to grind higher into this key support level that I had at the 3592 level, which was a 261.8 level. We hit that level almost right on the nose on the ES, and then we started to break. We topped out here on 9.2, and then and then 9.3, and then we started a breakdown on 9.3, which was Thursday. And at that point in time, we saw the VXX also actually kind of get a retracement down here. And, it could have been viewed as, okay, something's going on. The VXX isn't buying this breakdown in the ES, and the VXX is topping out in a C wave here in a diagonal. And I did have that count. I did have this as a potential diagonal up here, looking for a sharp move down here. But given that the equity markets were just so extended, hitting their target levels here in a very full count, I was viewing this as a buying opportunity, and I adopted the bullish count here, the bullish potential, which is a 1-2 up off the low. So I was viewing this as a buying opportunity rather than looking at this as a potential topping zone. And so we are able to get into some long trades here, both the options, and because this happened on a Thursday, it really was beneficial for some option trades. The premiums were fairly low on those option trades, and we were able to get into some option trades here as well as straight share trades here. And I think the option trades topped out at about 5x here, and then for some of the tail end stuff holding on, those moved up to about 10x up here. And again, that was just based on, I just had a really hard time buying that the equity markets were not topping here, and they were starting to grind down. I was really looking for a sharp drop here in the equity markets based on how extended they were and what we were seeing with the VXX grinding higher into this level here. So while there were certainly two counts here on the VXX where this could have been topping in a C wave, I adopted the more bullish count, and that was the count that I decided to trade here to the upside, because it just this didn't fit with what we're seeing with the equity markets as far as a clean topping area. Had the equity markets been finding a bottom in this region, had they been moving lower, then this would have been a fairly good short. So I would have been looking at this, hey, this is overlapping here off the lows. Could be a diagonal if the equity markets were moving down to the lows, but the equity markets were moving up this entire time. So with the equity markets moving up, along with the VXX moving up, again, the primary count I had was I was adopting this as a bullish breakout count, and I viewed this dip as a buying opportunity. And again, we took some trades and we were able to capitalize on that. And then from there, it was really sloppy trading in here, but again, I was buying dips here, and we put on a couple of different trades all the way into Friday that were all successful trades. And again, I was buying dips this entire time up until the highs that were struck on Friday. At that point, we took everything off as we moved down and hit our move through resistance and stopped out. And from there, I'm just looking at new buying opportunities here as we move into this B wave support zone here. Again, I don't have a great fit with the equity markets, not unsimilar to what we had up here, where I didn't have a great fit with the VXX up here. So what I'm looking for is, again, A, B, and then potentially 1, 2, a little bit deeper for this wave 2, which ideally should get the VXX to move a little bit lower, give us a little bit deeper retrace, and then I'd be looking for a bounce off of one of these levels, the 61.8 or the 76.4 retracement level, potentially for a buying opportunity. I'd like to see a full 5 up off the lows to give us a signal that we've bottomed, and at that point, maybe we can get that into Wednesday. Might potentially give us some nice option trades as we move deeper into the week to the upside, or potential just some share trades. So that's basically what I'm looking at on the VXX, looking for, again, this to retrace into its B wave and then continue to push higher. If we don't hold support and we move through this 2466 level, I would view this top that was struck last week as a wave 4, still needing another low to finish off this move. It's an alternate right now. It's not my base case, but that would be how I'm viewing this if we don't move through support. So we always have to be prepared for an alternate path if we don't hold the pattern that we're watching and the setups that we're watching. That would be what I'm looking for. So alternate fourth wave and then one more lower low for a fifth wave, potentially moving into the 2218 as low as 1891 level if we do indeed top in this fourth wave. But again, for now, I'm still looking for a B wave bottom as long as it holds support and looking for a continued move higher in the next several weeks and potentially a month or so. All right, so that about covers everything that I'm watching right now on the VXX and how that fits with what I'm seeing on the equity markets. So any questions, feel free to ask those now. I'm not sure how many we can get to, but go ahead and type those in if you have them, and I will get to as many as I can. All right, does B have to take same time as August 27 to September 4th? It does not have to, but ideally I want to see the B wave take somewhere around 50% to 100% time of wave A. That's just my anecdotal kind of guidance on that. Very rare to see a one-day retracement on a move that took, what's that, a week and a half for an A wave. It's very rare to see a one-day retracement on a B wave. So, corresponding fibs on UVXY, I will post that in the room, in the VIX room. Any rough estimate on the timing of the C wave? Once we see some kind of strength, some kind of a bottom, ideally again bouncing off either that 2751 or 2596 zone, we can get a better idea of timing. Right now it's a little bit difficult because we're still moving down and we don't have any signal of a bottom, but once we get an idea of some bottoming signals, then we can ideally get some better timing estimates. But right now, no, I don't have anything as far as timing until we see some kind of strength of the bottom. If we see a gap down in ES tomorrow morning, how would that impact the potential B wave retracement? If we see it depends on how deep that gap down would be. Again, looking at the smaller time frame of VXX, as long as the VXX holds, ideally, as long as we don't break over 30. This last high really 29.67. I still prefer to see this grind down a bit. If we start breaking over 29.67 on a 5-wave move or a very short move to the upside, it could potentially mean that we've already bottomed in all wave C here. But it's not my base case. We're right in the middle of fibs right now. We're between the 50% and the 61.8 retrace. It's pretty rare to bottom in the middle of fibs. It's not unheard of, but it's fairly rare. Typically, we will see a retracement hit much closer to one of these major fibs. So if the ES gaps down tomorrow, again, depending on how high the VXX moves, it would help kind of guide us. But again, over 29.64, potentially we've bottomed in all wave B here. But as long as we hold that level, I still would ideally like to see a little bit lower, at least into that 27.59 area. If we go up to 27.59, do we still go to 36 plus or finish at 31? If we go up to 27.59, if we go to 27.59, that ideally that's where I'd like to see it go to at least, and then from there, our larger degree. 27.59 is a 61.8 retrace, so we'd potentially the minimum target at that point would move a little bit higher. So if we bottom at the 61.8 versus the 25.95 level, then we'd be at 38.12 would be the 100 extension. So wherever we bottom, that I'd be looking at the 100 extension. I'm using the 76.4 right now because we don't have a signal of a bottom just yet. But wherever we actually bottom in the B wave, that would be where we draw our fibs for our bottom of our wave B. Positive divergence on the MACD and the ES chart as it makes new lows compared to last week. Yeah, again, I would ideally like to see the ES chart move a little bit higher here for a wave 2 at least. So that's why I'm not jumping the gun just yet on the VXX. I would prefer to see this move up a little bit before breaking down higher. But if ES gets through 3,300 to 3,266. We may have already struck a top, and we may already be in wave 3 down. But as long as we hold that zone, I would prefer to see this move back up for a wave 2. Last week, you said ES and VXX were going up together. That results in ES going down sharply. Can we have a sharp reversal up by the same logic now? Sharp reversal up in yes. Potentially, I'm not really reading too much into that as far as this move. It's more of a tell to me anyway, just anecdotally, when the VXX is rising near the tops of the ES. Again, I would prefer to see, but again, the VXX potentially is leading the ES. So I would prefer to see the ES move a little bit higher, at least for this wave 2. Whether that's sharp or not, I don't know. But the retracement zone for the ES is 3380 to 3423. What would alt green 5 be? Alt green 5 target wise, it'd be below the previous lows of targets this point in time. Based on this initial move, 2028, 1677, and I got some fibs around 1891 to 1677 as well. So yeah, 2218 to as low as 1689. Those are the next fibs below for that green path. Let's see, green 4. Should we get 5 up off the B of low? We'll be looking for shorter, longer dated call options. Yes. I don't know which yet. I'll run some option workups if we get 5 up. I have an option workup sheet, which I don't know if all of you have seen. It looks like this. This. Actually, let me show it in the. I'll show it here. So this was I'll show you a post that I made last week. VIX setups. Let's go here. So when we get an option set up, I will post. This was on September 3rd. So day trade momentum press setup would be long here from around current levels with stop under 2874, targeting 3334, or could do it with options with the attached workup. So this was a setup that I was watching. So we had a potential 1-2 up, and then it was basically a momentum trade. This was when the ES was looking like it was going to break down. I was looking for a move up into that 34 and 35 zone, and the option workup was posted here. And it's not showing up now. There it is. So this is the option workup that I post. So looking at either the 31s here at 61 cents, or you could have chose from a number of these, but 31s were at 61 cents. And the potential gain was 392% at if we would have hit 34 for the ideal target. 32 was the minimum target. That would have given you 121%. So that was the option setup that I looked at. And a few hours later, we're at 10x, looks like, on that one. Is that right? Oh, no, that was the first set I called. We had 2 setups that morning. So this was the first set. So that was at, this was the first set. We had 2 sets, two option plays that morning. So the first setup here was at, we were trading a little bit lower. And then we had another one here. So either way, those are the setups that I post. So that's what they look like. So I'll lay out the calls that I'm looking at here, and then it kind of gives you an idea of which one. So this one was 29 calls for 50 cents, looking for 435%, and that was at a target of 3173 for wave 1, and we moved beyond that. Yeah, we were at 32. So we moved over the 31.73 and up to 32. So those first batch of calls were at 10x, and the second batch, I think they made it up to around 5x. So yeah, I'll be looking for calls once we get 5 up. Yeah, I don't know what time frame until we get there. Do I consider VVIX in your analysis? I don't look at it all that often, so I'm not familiar enough with it to really opine on it. There are some folks in the room who really use it a lot more often than I do, and their analysis is really good. Kenneth Arndt is great with that, but I don't look at it enough to really have a great feel for the tell on that. But it certainly seems to be a good index for some to watch. But for me, I don't see it enough to really get a good feel for it. With the expectation of the VIX moving lower, does that mean we're getting a move higher? Yes, I think I discussed that already. How do the VXX and the EVXA differ patterns? The UVXY and the VXX patterns typically follow the same counts. The fibs on the UVXY are going to obviously be different, just based on the price being different and the VXY being 2x, but they typically follow the same patterns. The only caveat I will say is that sometimes there are occasions when the UVXY will invalidate a move lower and the VXX won't, just because there is more decay built into the UVXY. But for the most part, they follow the same patterns. Avi was worried about backwardation today on the VXX. How should that affect things going into options expiration? I don't think that he was worried about it. I think he was asking the question, are we still in backwardation or are we still in contango? And looking at the curve here, we can see that the front months 1 and 2, we're at 14.50, we're at 14% contango. Which is a lot, just in it by itself. But you got to remember that we have OPEX next week, so the VXX is only a very small percentage. I don't know what it is offhand. I have to look it up, but I would imagine it's around 15%, probably would be my guess at this point. September still, and most of it's going to be in October. So it's, even though it's 14%, the daily roll yield is not going to be very high at the moment because we are so close to options expiration. What's more important is going to be, really the VXX over the next 2 weeks is really going to be following October futures. So pretty much whatever October futures do, that's what the VXX is going to be doing over the next couple of weeks at least. And as we roll forward, right now we've got 2 and 3 at 8% backwardation. So we've certainly got some pressure here to the upside, even as we roll into OPEX. I'm not really that concerned about this 1 and 2 month because, again, we're mostly into October at this point with the VXX tracking October for the most part, with about a week left until OPEX. So not terribly concerned about this at the moment. Thanks, you're welcome. What does the trade call look like? Can you please show some more sample posts? I just posted those. These are the setup calls. So you can see starting on September 1st, we had a call. Trade here, stops under that low, that one held. We held that one on up until up through the 34. So entry at 27, and that one we were able to hold that one on up to, I think, 34, 35. This was a hedge, and again, I noted that this potentially is a C wave in a diagonal, so I laid out a hedge setup here with puts. This one clearly went to 0, which was good, given that we were long. So it was a hedge setup. These are the options workups I just mentioned. These ones went up to 5x initially, and then holding through some of the dips, they ended up being up about 10x. And then, yeah, that was just like an hour later. They're up 3 to 4x, and then they continued to move up. And this was another setup. So anyone missed the first entry, another chance here to exit. Again, day trade momentum press on September 3rd. Again, looking for a momentum move up as the ES was breaking down. Again, another option workup here. got about 10x on the first batch. So these are the setup posts. These are what I'm posting as setups. I'm kind of looking at entries and guiding exits a bit here. Again, kind of setting up where we can put stops here, stops at the low a day here. And this is another Friday lotto. This one worked out. It was about a double if you were nimble on it. It wasn't a huge move, a huge winner, but not terrible for a few. It was just about 30 minutes from entry to about a double. So it wasn't terrible, but wasn't great for Friday. Thursday was the big day that we had last week, and then the week before that we had a couple weeks before that we had some nice trades as well on August 27th, I think, and August 20th. So we had some good trades the week before that as well. So those are what the trading setups look like in the room. Do you use put setups for moves lower? Yeah, typically I'll use options for moves lower. I don't like naked shorting VXX. It's not my preferred way to do it. It's just too much risk involved for my tastes. I don't like to recommend naked shorts on the VXX, but I will use puts for the most part on that. And then we do also trade IWM and QQQs, so I like to look at those for the long side as well. When you buy a VXX calls, do you buy single legs or vertical spreads? Typically, I'll just buy single legs. It's really tough to manage and research verticals with everything I've got going on. But there are a lot of folks that use the workups that I post to help them identify both verticals as well as butterfly trades. But for me, I don't have the time to really dig into all the different options setups and got too much stuff going on. But I typically just buy single legs, which they usually work out for it. If we get the move that we're looking for, they typically work out fairly well. Ever use VIX futures? For the most part, I use the VXX. The counts certainly work with the VIX futures. Again, VXX is tracking the VIX futures the front and near month for the most part. So the counts are always typically very similar, and I will look at the VIX futures from time to time and post those charts if I feel that they are telling or helpful with what we're seeing on the VXX. All right, so that looks like what's the monthly fee for the VIX service? I think it's $100, $99. I think there's a quarterly discount, and there's a 15-day free trial if you'd like to try it out. Okay, so I think that's it. If there's any other questions, feel free to type those into the room, into the main room, or into the, if you're in the VIX service, obviously there. But if you have any questions in the main room, I'll go and ask those, and I can do my best to address those. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us. Again, everybody was here as a guest, thanks for joining us. And the service members, of course, I'll see you all next week on Monday, which is the normal day for these videos, right around the close. All right, thanks everyone for joining us. Have a great week.